What's up everyone? MongoDB isn't for everyone. That's why Payload CMS also provides a way to use Postgres with your project. In this video, I'll be going over how to use Postgres with your Payload CMS project. By the end of the video, you'll have an operational Postgres database. You'll also have the option for a local instance of Postgres, as well as a hosted version with Supabase. If you want the code I use in this video, there's a link to the repo in the description. Now let's dive in. Before we get started, allow me a moment to share my opinion on Postgres with Payload CMS. I love relational databases. I learned to code using Postgres. The primary reason I used SQL databases, though, was because of how easy it is to manage relationships. Since Payload CMS handles relationships for me, I've taken the simple route of mostly recommending MongoDB with Payload CMS. One primary reason for that is data safety. Not in the way that MongoDB is more secure or whatever, but in the way of making sure data doesn't get deleted by accident. If you make adjustments to your production MongoDB while still in development, it's pretty low risk. It's unlikely that you'll destroy your production environment if you change your schema. Unless you choose to delete something, MongoDB will keep your work stored. With Postgres, you run the risk of dropping entire tables if you migrate too early. Changing your schema in your database can break sections of your production environment. There are risks to using Postgres if you're not careful. It's true. But sometimes it's required to use Postgres or other relational databases, just depending on client expectations and deliverables. That's where the flexibility of Payload CMS comes into play. You can choose Postgres or MongoDB or SQLite, and you can be sure that you're still well within best practices. Let's get started. I'll use this part of the video to show you how to install Postgres and get started with a Payload CMS project. So the first thing we need to do is first check if Postgres is installed on the machine. So you can do that by typing in which PSQL if you're using terminal. So when I hit enter, I see that there is a path to my PSQL. That means Postgres is installed on my machine. If you don't have Postgres installed, you might see something like PSQL not found. Now, if that is the case and you don't have Postgres installed, you can go to the Postgres website that I linked to in the description of this video. When you go to the link, it brings you to the downloads, and you can scroll down to the packages and installers and select whatever installer you're going to use. So for me, I'm on Mac, so I'm going to use Mac OS. And then I can come down to the Postgres app. You can also use other methods like Homebrew or Macports, but postgres.app is the easiest way that I found to install Postgres. So first you'll need to download Postgres by clicking the download button, follow the instructions there, and load it up. Now, after you install the application, you need to put the application's bin in front of your path, and you can do that by using this simple command, which you can find on my website through the link to the repo in the description. So now when I hit enter, nothing's going to happen, but I can check the PSQL version, and I see that it's 17.6. So this is how you'll confirm that Postgres is now installed on your machine through installing the Postgres app. Now I'll create a new payload project by going to the working directory where I want my project to be. So I'm just changing directory to my tutorial repos directory on my machine. And then I can run pnpx create payload app. Now I can name the project, which will be 2025-09-29 Postgres. And I want this to be the blank template. And I'm going to use Postgres SQL. And then I will accept this connection string. Now that the project creation process is finished, I just opened up the project in my IDE. Now I can open up my terminal and run pnpm dev and come over to my local host and go to the admin panel to create my initial user. So I'll just type in a test email and password, and I can see that I have access to my admin dashboard. Now, in most cases, you'll want to secure your Postgres database by changing out this password placeholder, but I don't plan on deploying this project, so I'm just going to leave this unsecured. Now we have Postgres and Payload up and running with our first user. The blank template with the Postgres connection comes with every option that we need right out of the box. If we go over to our Payload config, we can see that right away our Postgres adapter has been imported and a basic configuration has been added to our database option. In this segment of the video, I'll go over a few key configuration options for the Postgres adapter. You're welcome to use the default options, but the Postgres adapter does much more than that. Again, we can see in our config that we have the Postgres adapter, and we get the one required option, which is pool, where we'll include our connection string. If you do nothing else, this will work just fine. You can set ID type to UUID if you want to use UUIDs with Postgres, but serial is the default option. Serial auto-increments integers just like Postgres typically would do. Either of these options are fine, but it's best to know what you want to do before starting a project, as switching between the two is not very easy to do, and you may need to drop your tables altogether to do it. So I'm going to leave this as serial since that's how my project was created. If you want to have the ability to set the ID yourself, you can do that by setting allow ID on create to true. So this will allow you to create an ID whenever you're creating a new document through the local API. This defaults to false. By default, Payload uses Drizzle's push in development mode. This allows you to make changes to your schema without migrations while you're still in development. You can disable this by setting push to false, but I'm going to leave it as true, which is the default value, because I don't want to have to handle migrations while I'm in development. If you do use push, you should not use Payload's migrations until you're ready for production. Push and Payload's migrations do not work together, and you will get warnings about this as well. You can also configure a different migration directory by setting migration directory to a new path name. So I'll change migrations to Payload migrations. And you can also enable the blocks as JSON option, which stores your payload blocks as a JSON column rather than a relational structure. This comes in handy if you have a large number of blocks, which can cause performance issues with Postgres. And this defaults to false as well. There are other configuration options available, of course, but these common options help you do more with the Postgres adapter. Now let's talk about how to handle migrations. But first, if you're finding this video helpful, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. You also have the option to become a member of my channel. Members receive exclusive perks like early access to videos. Thank you for your support. As I mentioned earlier, you should use Payload's built-in push tool in development. But if you do this with your production database, you will break your production site or app. Because of that, it's best to treat your development database as a sandbox. Once you're done making the adjustments, you can start creating and running migrations. You can create a migration by running payload migrate create. Running this script will look for an existing migrations directory, which we changed from the default migrations to payload migrations, and it's going to generate some SQL changes. These SQL changes convert your schema from its prior state to the new state, just like any normal migration. The script also creates a new migration file, which is this one here, the TypeScript file with the timestamp. And in this file contains all of the SQL changes for our migration. Running payload migrate create is not enough to run the migration though. Remember, you don't want to mix Payload's migrations with Drizzle's DB push in development. So you'll need to handle this in your CI/CD process. You'll want to set up a way for your build script to do the migration for you. The recommended way is to go to your package.json file and create a new script. So I'm going to, underneath our build script here, create a new script called CI, which is going to have our payload migrate and pnpm build. Then you'll need to set up your CI/CD pipeline to accept CI as your build script. Now your Postgres database is set up to run migrations in your build phase. Now that we've set up a local instance of Postgres, let's add Supabase into the mix. If you don't have a Supabase account, you'll need to create one. And you can do that by going to supabase.com and then follow the steps to create an account, then create a new organization. I already have an account and an organization, so I can go into my account and go to all projects, and I already have an organization created, so I'll just use this one. And now I don't have a new project created. So what I'll do is I'll create a new project, and I'm going to name this project Postgres example and set a strong password, and I'll just use this password here, and I'm going to copy it and paste it over into my environment variables. Then I'll select any region, I'll just choose the default and then create a new project. There were more security and advanced options we could have looked at, and you're free to look at them if you'd like, but the defaults were good enough for me. If your project doesn't open right away like mine does, you can click on the project to open it. Then you should see a connect button at the top of the screen, so I'll click that. And since Payload CMS uses Drizzle on the back end, we can select the ORM option. So I'll click that and then select Drizzle as my tool and copy this database URL. So now I can paste this underneath my database URI, comment out my local instance, and cut my password here into the your password placeholder, and I can hit save. Then I need to change my connection string to database URL, and now I can spin up my development server. And we'll check that this is working properly. So if I refresh our admin panel, I should be redirected to our create first user, and then I can create my first user again, just to make sure that I'm writing to my database, no problem. And it looks like everything is working properly. Now that that's confirmed, you're done. Now that you have Postgres installed in a project, you can get started building your website or app. We've installed Postgres on your machine and even have a Supabase instance ready to go. If you found this video helpful, please like it and share it with others who might also find it useful. Subscribe to my channel so you never miss when I release more content about Payload CMS and more. Consider becoming a member of my channel for exclusive perks. Members get early access to some videos and an invite to my private Discord server. There's a link to become a member in the description. If you have suggestions or questions, please leave those in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Until then, I'll see you on the next one.